You can't have Oktoberfest without beer. But getting that malty, hoppy flavor just right takes time and a surprising amount of science. That is my idea of a teachable moment. Let's go learn more about it with my expert guests. Cute. Hello, Vermont. Yeah, that beer was great. Unless you're a home brewer, you probably don't think that much about the long fermentation process that results in your favorite beer. You just enjoy it. So you may be surprised to learn that throughout fermentation, there's a team running lab tests almost every day to ensure the final product is up to par. Yes, they get to taste a lot of beer, but it's all in the name of science. Marissa Capua worked as a brewery technician in Portsmouth, New Hampshire before joining the quality assurance crew at Zero Gravity in Burlington. And Erin Wong is a senior majoring in food science at UVM who is currently interning at Zero Gravity, learning about brewing and quality assurance on the job, working side by side with Marissa. Marissa and Erin, welcome. And also a full disclosure, I used to be Erin's teacher and one of her advisors at UVM, so I helped connect her with Zero Gravity, which hosts student interns from UVM's Nutrition and Food Sciences department every semester. I am excited to learn how it's been going, but first, Marissa, tell us, how did you get into brewing?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but I won't keep you too long. I worked a job in manufacturing doing some kind of like lean engineering type stuff. Shortly after college, the company downsized, and so I was let go. So I kind of had to figure out what I wanted to do next.
Okay.
And when I was in college, I was fortunate enough to get to do a semester abroad. And in that time, I was able to travel to the Guinness factory over in Dublin.
What a place.
And just fell in love with it. It was just such an amazing kind of blend of both art and science that really piqued my interest. And so I thought back to that and I was like, why not give this a try? So yeah, the rest is history.
And so you came back to New England and found yourself in a brewery setting. You got into brewing in New Hampshire?
Yeah. So there were a couple of different steps along the way. I worked in retail at a liquor store. I did do some volunteering at a local brewery near my house. I worked at Anheuser-Busch as a warehouse supervisor for some time. And then I finally broke into brewing in Portsmouth when I worked at Craft Brew Alliance.
Okay, so how much of a science background do you have to have in order to do what you do?
So to get into brewing, you don't really need to have a science background.
You just have to love beer.
There's a lot of on-the-job training.
Okay.
To do what we do at Zero Gravity, it does actually require a college degree, typically in a science background. So my degree is in environmental engineering.
So doing quality assurance at Zero Gravity specifically, or in general, if you were doing quality assurance?
Typically a quality assurance job would require some kind of science degree.
So that you understand the benchmarks and the type of science that you're doing in the lab.
Exactly. And again, there is a lot of training on the job that happens specific to whatever quality assurance you're testing. But having that background of understanding is really key.
And on the job type training, Erin, you've sort of been experiencing this in your internship, what it's like to be put into the environment and learn as you go, learn by doing. Yeah. So I know that you have taken a fermentation class before, a class on brewing at UVM. What is going on when we make beer? Can you describe it for us?
So when you make beer, there's like 4 simple ingredients. It's the water, it's malt, which is like any type of grain. So it's mostly like barley or wheat. And then there's hops and yeast. So what happens is when you put all of that together, there's simple sugars that are like leached from the grains, and then the yeast eats it and creates ethanol, which is alcohol.
Ethanol is the alcohol. Okay, so we're talking about a process in which then the alcohol is being made by the digestion of all of those sugars. Oh, okay. So where do the flavors in beer come from? So you talked about malt and you talked about hops, but how do different beers get their characteristic flavors?
It's really, that's a great
Erin's like,
question.
I'm going to pitch to Marissa.
Yeah, it's really going to be dependent on the style. Certain styles are more malt forward, certain styles are more hop forward, and certain styles are more yeast forward. With the example of like Belgians that have a really characteristic yeast flavor to them.
So does that mean that you put more of that ingredient into the beer, into the wort to get it started?
Not necessarily. In some cases, yes, but sometimes it's just changes in process. For example, with the Marzen Lager, the Oktoberfest that you got to try yesterday, one of the things that gives it a depth of caramel flavor is not just the malt itself, but also there's a characteristic process that gets employed called decoction mashing. It's different from our typical mashing process in that they actually remove a portion of the mash and boil it. And what happens is you get Maillard reactions occurring. So you get a
Maillard reaction.
A much,
we learned this in our class.
A more complex kind of caramel flavor to it.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that Marzen Lager because that beer yesterday, yes, it has kind of a toasty caramel type of a flavor. So that's typical of the Oktoberfest Marzen Lager style.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, and so it's a combination of ingredients and technique over the fermentation. Okay.
And I will say that is one process that we do employ at Zero Gravity that not everywhere does. It's a more traditional process, and we really do try to use those processes that are true to tradition wherever we can.
Do you only make that Oktoberfest style beer at this time of year?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely a fall style that people look for
Worth coming in for sure. All right, so Erin, it's a typical day in the lab. You have just arrived. Tell me what you do.
Well, just did it this morning.
So it should be fresh. Tell me about
first
it.
thing, clock in.
Of course.
Of course.
Right.
But we go into the lab and Marissa makes this like sheet of what's beers I need to test in the morning. So I'll get test tubes and I'll set up like beakers and funnels to filter it out. I'll go to the tanks and there's a little like spout that I can get it from.
So you can pull some samples.
Yeah, so the beer doesn't go everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll get the samples, bring it back to the lab, filter it, and then I'll take the pH of it, record it, and then we'll put it through a machine called the alkalizer, and it'll give you like we're looking for 4 specific numbers. So it's the ABV, which is the alcohol content, the AE, the OE, and the RDF, which is like real degree of fermentation.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the other letters mean.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. The AE and the OE.
Real life learning in process.
Yeah, the AE and the OE are different terms for specific gravity. So the AE is what it's currently measuring, and the OE is a calculation of what it estimates it started at.
Okay. And what does it mean by gravity?
So specific gravity is kind of how we can get a sense for how much of the sugar in the wort, which is a term for pre-fermented beer, how much of the sugar in that wort has been consumed by the yeast and turned into alcohol. So if you can get a sense for where did it start and where is it at right now, you can then get a kind of estimation for how much alcohol is in there. With the alkalizer, it goes another step and actually will measure the alcohol content. So there is no guessing game or calculation that needs to be done. But the other things that the gravity will tell us is how much residual sugar is there in your beer at the end. And that will contribute to the flavor, it will contribute to the body of the beer, how sweet it is, and so on and so forth.
Do the tests vary depending upon the style that you're making, or do you always run the same sorts of tests?
Well, there are some tests that will be performed regardless of style. Tests like this are always going to be run no matter what style we're dealing with. But certain styles will employ different tests that maybe others won't. Lagers might employ tests that ales don't. For example, if there was a fruit addition into a beer, there might be further testing that gets utilized there. So yeah, it really depends.
And I think you're also doing some testing using media, and by media, I think that's what the name is for what's in like a Petri dish. I don't know if I'm going to have that right. Tell me about that. So what are you doing? You're looking for microbes, right?
Yeah, you're looking for microbes to make sure there's like no spoilage, but also you're making sure that the yeast hasn't like gone bad. So we'll have like the actual Petri dish and like you streak it, but we'll also have like HLP tubes,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
With like the media, and then you'll like shake it up and make sure like nothing grows in them.
So does it feel like this is your microbiome classes coming to life?
Yes, it does. It's funny because right after this internship, my first class is food microbiology. So I'm doing the same things in my internship in my lab as well.
That's pretty amazing. So when do you get to the taste testing?
We do a little bit of taste testing on the regular, just throughout our day-to-day. We'll check in on tanks throughout their fermentation process and through conditioning as well. And that's just keeping an eye on, like, is this tasting the way that it should, depending on where it is in the process.
Yeah.
But we also have a bi-weekly sensory panel, and bi-weekly being twice a week, not every other week.
Okay.
Where in one of those panels we do what's called a true to brand session, where we're tasting all of the beer that was packaged the week prior and comparing it to a pre-established brand profile that's broken down by visual, aroma, taste, and mouthfeel. So getting all of your sensory categories in there. And just making sure that it tastes the way that it's supposed to, so that you know it tastes the way that a loyal customer would expect it to.
Yeah, so establishing that consistency across all the products.
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds like, is that your favorite part of the day?
Oh, it's my favorite part of my job, for sure.
And Erin, I asked you what you thought of the taste testing, and you said,
I don't really like beer that much.
I love that. Well, see, there you go. You don't have to love beer. Maybe you just have to love science.
Yes.
Yeah, and so actually, internships are designed to give you a taste of a professional environment, help you acquire professional skills, put your learning into context. What's your big takeaway about what you want to do after graduation? Because you're a senior.
Well, I kind of learned that quality assurance is something that I do want to go into. When talking with friends about like, oh, what do you want to do after college? I was always like, I don't know, like maybe product development, because that sounds like really fun. But I realized I like the more rigid structure of like following the steps, following the rules, and like making sure everything like works exactly how it's supposed to.
And so you also enjoyed, it sounds like, applying the science.
Yeah.
Having tests, looking for results. How about the analysis? Did you like the analysis too?
The analysis was cool. Yeah, I mean, like, it's really interesting because usually when you smell a beer, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just beer. But when we were doing the sensory panels, Marissa was like, oh, like, what are the notes? Like, what does it smell like? And she was saying stuff like banana or like papaya. I was like, really?
It's a learning process. You get there, right?
Absolutely.
So real quickly, Marissa, why does Zero Gravity welcome so many interns?
I think it's really, you know, like getting to share a piece of the industry with up and coming students.
The joy of what you do.
The joy of what we do. It's a way for us to be able to kind of share knowledge, but also have some more outreach as well. I think having partnerships with UVM is mutual benefit.
Well, I know it has always been a fantastic experience to be able to place food science students, help them achieve their personal ambitions. It's a great learning environment. Thank you guys both so much for joining me. And as always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.